What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Fade YouTube channel presented by myself, Glenn, and Big Jack. It's been a while since we come in front of you with a video. Baseball season, we enjoy watching a little bit of baseball, but the team we support has been miserable this year and disappointing to say the least. So it's hard to get too excited and come out with too many videos. But we're back. We're back for football season. We get pumped about football. Obviously, we're excited about the Bears and their possibilities this year, but it just feels good to start getting geared back up for football in the football season, particularly the NFL season. We love the NFL, the pro game. We're gonna come to you guys with some laid back videos, talking division by division, talking about some of the over under win totals for various teams throughout the NFL. Maybe some teams we like that maybe we're eyeing a win total future on. Maybe some individuals within the division that maybe we see as potential MVP type candidates for a long shot future bet. But we're just going to bring some general football banter and start gearing up for the 2023 NFL season. Big Jack, it's good to have you back. How you doing, my brother?
Good to be back, my man. Appreciate it as always. Nah, exactly how you were saying. I'm excited. We're finally moving back into football season. There's nothing better. I consider myself probably even bigger sports fan than most. I can get down with just about anything, but the NFL is what makes the world go around, baby. So can't wait.
Hell yeah. It's a great time of year. If your team isn't very good at baseball, at least we're heading towards the playoffs and the playoff races get interesting. Premier League soccer starts back up. College football is right around the corner. Pro football just after it. It's a great time to be alive. And we got the FedEx Cup with golf and just general golfing weather in general. It's a great time. But anyway, this week we're going to bring the two South divisions in the NFL. We're going to bring you a video on those two divisions. We're going to start today and here with this video with the NFC South. Big Jack, I'll let you get us teed up and ready to go with the NFC South and some things that you're liking and looking forward to this season.
You sure you don't just want to do a video about how fall golf is the best golf of the year?
It's the best golf of the year until you go out on a Thursday and shoot a 98 and want to just quit.
Yeah, that was the breaks, man. But yeah, let's jump into it. NFC South, both the South, NFC South and AFC South, kind of just mundane. Not a lot of juice to them this year. NFC South's a little more wide open. I think obviously the Saints are the favorite, but I think you could make an argument for the Falcons. Certainly seem to be getting a lot of love right now, and maybe even a long shot, as unfortunate as it might be to say, with the Panthers, especially being in our position as Bears fans, having that pick. So we certainly want them to be as bad as possible, but I think they got a pretty solid defense and could maybe surprise some people. But we'll start with the Bucks, absolute worst team in the division. A lot of turnover this year. Brady on his way out, retiring finally after the greatest career in arguably sports history. They still got Todd Bowles, kind of a lame duck coach. I feel like he just got the job because of typical NFL nepotism. He's, Bruce Arians' boy. Bruce Arians is like, if I'm stepping away, Todd Bowles has got to be the guy. He was a very poor coach in New York when he was with the Jets. Then he went back to being a coordinator, and then he was just kind of gifted this position because Bruce Arians was stepping down. I don't think anyone plays for Todd Bowles. I don't know if you've ever heard any of his interviews. He's just kind of a lame. Yes. And this is not a good football team. The biggest difference this year and last year is obviously Baker Mayfield is likely going to be the starter. Although I've already heard some rumblings in camp about how they're kind of looking at some of the backups as maybe being the options. Interesting thing for me, they did draft Kalijah Cansey out of Pittsburgh. He was someone I'm sure Bears fans all kind of had circled on the draft board as someone we were interested in. So that's a development I'd like to keep my eye on to see how he's doing, to see if he sort of becomes any sort of player, just because I was sort of high on him for the Bears. So that's interesting to me. Running back situation, they got Chase Edmonds down there now, so maybe fantasy angle there instead of Leonard Fournette. But I think they're, absolutely terrible this year. I wouldn't be surprised if they're, pulling for that Caleb Williams sweepstakes. I could see them being the worst team in the NFL. Their over under wins is 6.5, but it's juiced. It's plus 120 at 6.5. So it's
Yep.
juiced quite a bit to the under. It opened at 6.5, but it was minus 115. So it hasn't moved as far as the actual total, but that juice has clearly shifted quite a bit. They're a long shot to win the division at plus 850. I don't see any value there. There's no way in hell they're winning this division as bad as it is. They're the one team who I think has just absolutely no chance this year. You got any thoughts on the Bucks?
I mean, if you're just looking at that 6.5 number for win total, my early lean would be over on it, and the only reason is with the division being so bad, like they might get some wins in their own division. You know what I mean? Yeah, I think this is a team that definitely has a huge question mark at quarterback. Baker Mayfield's probably going to win a game or two, but he's going to lose some games as well. This defense seems like it's fallen off for sure from the defense of a couple of years ago that helped Tom Brady win his last Super Bowl. The big question mark for me is their receiving core and their offensive line. It's probably a part of the reason Brady called it quits. They moved Wirfs to left tackle, I think. Right tackle is going to be a big question mark. I think they got a young guy on the interior that they drafted. And then at receiver, they lose Julio. Evans is still there, I think, but he's getting up there in years. He's still a good red zone guy, but he's not really taking the top off of defense anymore. I don't know. If I'm gonna make a bet on like all these over unders, like I'm probably betting the over on this one, but it's not. I don't have like a huge lean either way. I just think the division's bad. I don't see any world beaters in the division. Like you said, New Orleans is the favorite, probably rightfully so. But even them, they're a team that like does 8 and 9 maybe sneak them into the playoffs just from winning the division. Like I could see that happening. Um, as far as like any kind of MVP, defensive MVP features on this team, I don't see any. I don't see any. So, yeah, I mean, like I said, I probably lean the over on a bet, but it's not a strong lean. So,
Yeah, I mean, you'd be getting you'd be getting some decent juice on the
yeah,
over at that plus 120. I tend to lean the opposite on that. I'm not a big, these videos will be. I'm sure I'll probably throw out a handful of plays that I sort of like, but as you know, I'm not a big futures guy. I'd rather
sure.
lose a dime tonight and try to go get it back tomorrow than wait 6 months to try to win.
I'll probably lay down a Bears future of some sort just because I do, and then probably like one or two team total type deals.
Yeah,
No
yeah, fair
major,
enough.
no major money, just like I don't have huge units, so I'll probably like 3 to 5 units. Just some kind of like long term NFL bet. But last year I was 0-2 on my futures, so
You're gonna turn the beat around this year, baby.
smart play is
But
probably
yeah,
just for me to stay away from them. But whatever.
yeah, we'll move it along. I'm gonna kind of go in order of like worst odds
Okay.
to the top. Just kind of keep it that way for an organizational standpoint. Carolina Panthers up next. It gets a little tight here. Carolina Panthers are plus 385 to win the division, so that's obviously a significant jump over where how far back Tampa is compared to the rest of the pack. Like you were talking about, not being surprised if Tampa did hit the over just because of how poor the division is. I think that's why there's kind of an equal balance in the odds as far as who they think is going to come out on top. Carolina is interesting to me for many reasons. They're tied to the Bears. Whether we like it or not, that number one overall pick traded to them. We got our guy in DJ Moore. We got some picks next year. Some things we're excited about in Chicago, but we're always going to be watching with a wandering eye to see what Bryce Young looks like down in Carolina. I think that's a very interesting situation to me. They got a new coach in there with Frank Reich. Was a little highly thought of at first, and sort of the shine wore off of his time in Indianapolis. I'm sure he'll be feeling rejuvenated with a new chance. Probably felt like he got done a little bit dirty with the way he went out in Indy. I'm sure he'll be out for vengeance to sort of prove himself. And I mean, they signed some weapons, man. They signed DJ Chark, a good veteran receiver. They signed Adam Thielen, a good veteran receiver. And they signed Miles Sanders, just coming off of that Super Bowl appearance, had an excellent year in Philly. You know, I'll, I'll sit here and be the first one to tell you how worthless running backs are. But to a young quarterback, a guy with that experience, I think as replaceable as they are, I still think a guy like that can, carry some weight in the locker room and help a young guy out and be reliable to, someone you can turn around and hand the ball to and get you some from time to time. Then, as far as that defense goes, they just had a pretty good defense last year, and I think they'll carry that over to this year. J.C. Horns is pretty solid defensive back. They got a great edge rusher in Brian Burns. He's an absolute dog. People were trying to trade for him all last year, and they were just like, nah, he's untouchable. He's our guy. He's a savage. So they got some good things going, and they don't have a draft pick. Oddly enough as well, their backup quarterback, Andy Dalton coming from the Bears.
Didn't he have like kind of a sneaky good year last year for New Orleans too?
He had some decent games. I don't know about good year, but yeah, he had some decent games when he was filling in a little bit there. But yeah, they're just an interesting team because of that Bears tie for the most part to me and probably you as well and anyone who's a Bears fan. But yeah, no early draft pick. It's ours in Chicago. So they, it's not going to be a situation where if they start off bad, they're like, all right, let's, write it off. They're going to be gunning every week because they don't have a high pick anyway. Front office is going to be all in on trying to win and develop Bryce Young now. And I'm sure the coaching staff they're always trying to win, So I could see them being sneaky good. Their over under for wins is 7.5 at -125. Also hasn't moved, just kind of juiced to the over. I mean, I wouldn't bet it because I don't love over 7.5. I still feel like 8 wins is a good amount of wins in this league. But I mean, gun to head, if I was taking a side, I'd probably take that over. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I have a bad feeling that this is going to be a decent football team.
I think gun to head, I lean over too, Jack. I think it's a good number. It really is. I mean, Vegas knows what they're doing. I think this is a team that, based on their defense and like the pieces they have on offense, like they're going to find a way to win 7, 8, 9 games. They're not going to make a playoff run, and they're not going to be terrible. They're going to be like the most average team on the NFL, but they're going to be like, as a Carolina fan, I think you could be okay with that because the hope is that the rookie quarterback looks pretty good, and if he does, then you start getting some hope for the future. Like you said, their defense is solid. They signed the pieces they signed on offense is like the most average NFL offense of all time. Like, they're not bad pieces, but it's like an old Thielen, DJ Chark, Miles Sanders, Hayden Hurst. Like, those are all fine guys. You know all those names, but like nobody like scares you.
No, but they're just veteran guys who know how to play in this
they're going to do a
league,
job.
and it's all just about putting those types of guys and probably like good character type guys in their eyes around the young quarterback, kind of helping them along the way, teaching them how to be a professional type of thing.
Right. I mean, do you, by any chance, do you have any of the future odds up? Do you have any idea what Bryce Young, offensive rookie of the year, odds is at?
I'm
know curious what
the,
that is.
The next team we're gonna get into with the Atlanta Falcons. I know that Bijan Robinson was plus 300 because I put that one down because I do think there's probably, I mean, he's the favorite, but I think there's a reason he's the favorite. Bryce Young is plus 400 to win offensive rookie of the year.
So they're kind of right there. Favorite. He's the second favorite.
Yeah.
If he's you see those early training camp videos where he's out there and he looks tiny, man. He's small. Yeah. Like, I do think there's an element to some of these young guys' games, like Kyler Murray to a certain degree. I know he's hurt now, but like Kyler, maybe back to Russ a little bit. He's not young, but some of these smaller guys where if they do have a little bit of wit about them, they know how to like avoid the big hits to a certain degree and like get down and whatever else. You do worry about a guy that size. I don't know. I don't think the hype of like this guy's the Steph Curry of the fucking draft type deal. Like I thought that was the corniest shit of
That
all
shit's
time.
so that's all
It's
that
so
stuff's so whack,
stupid.
man.
It's such a reach.
It's
I
all
you know
played out too. They do it every
yeah,
year.
it's crazy, but I do think that all the other pieces, if you just take away from quarterback, and then you just realize that Bryce Young is probably a little bit better than Andy Dalton. In worst case scenario, if Andy Dalton's got to play some games, like I think this team's gonna win, 7, 8, 9 games. They'll be right there. I don't hate the odds on them to win the division. To be honest, there's no team in this division that really, I think is gonna like blow everybody else away. I don't know. That's kind of
Yeah,
my thoughts.
yeah. I
Yeah.
think that plus 385, depending where you shop, maybe even closer to plus 400. It's. I do think it's decent value, for that type of play as
Yeah.
far as winning a bad division goes. Bryce Young, I think the biggest thing for me is that yeah, he's tiny, but I think the rub on him was just that he is a smart, intelligent football player who works hard off the field and in the
Yeah.
film room and kind of understanding the offense, understanding what defenses he's going against. I think he's just that kind of guy who reads it and gets it out. I think that's why some people were so high on him as a talented passer. He's not going to be the guy who's trying to scramble around and get extra yards with his feet. At least not, I'm not the biggest college football guy.
Sure.
We talked about that before, but I just feel like that's his mo, and I think that that'll keep him
It's
on his
passing.
feet for the
Yeah.
most part. But yeah, he's a hit away. Anyone in the NFL is one hit away from being done, but he's more likely a candidate than anybody else at that size. It's going to be scary out there if you're a Carolina fan. But moving on to the Atlanta Falcons, they're an interesting team this year that everyone seems to be super high on. Dude, so their over under wins is 8.5, and it's minus 140. It opened at 7.5, minus 115. So people have been pummeling their over on wins. It's gone up a whole game and heavily juiced to the over still. Kind of crazy to me. I don't really know much about Arthur Smith as a coach. He's relatively new. Seems like kind of a dweeb, but you know, Desmond Ritter at quarterback. No, thank you. That doesn't interest me at all. I have no faith that he's going to be anybody in this league. It is interesting that Taylor Heineke is now their backup because he's had a decent bit of run, decent media shine at some of his times with the Redskins, the Washington, whatever they're called now,
Commanders. Yeah.
football team, Commanders, whatever. But he had some decent games and like got some decent attention. So I wouldn't be surprised if like they feel like that team's all right and Ritter's kind of holding them back if there started being some clamoring to give Heineke a shot down there.
That's exactly
Um,
what's going to happen. You could see it already.
yeah,
Whoever starts, if they have any trouble, the next guy, there's gonna be
right.
3 quarterback changes this year.
Yeah, tale as old as time. But the biggest thing we kind of just alluded to about Bijan Robinson being plus 300, the favorite for rookie of the year. I mean, he's the favorite, but I do sort of see some value in that play. Everything I've been reading and hearing and the couple clips I've seen. I mean, you see every clip you see for the most part is someone doing something incredible at camp. I get you can't get overhyped about it, but everyone has said, all the top scouts said Bijan Robinson's the best football player in the draft. You're just a lunatic if you draft a running back before like the 7th round these days. But they drafted him 8th overall, and apparently he's the man. I think he'll be interesting to watch. He seems like that true dual threat back who's going to be making a lot of plays in the passing game out of the backfield as well. So I think that'll be interesting to see. They have some good weapons down there, I will admit. So I could see some of the love. Like, Kyle Pitts is sort of taking a step back. I think he's got more drops than he does touchdowns in his career. He's got some issues. But I think a lot of the issues are to do with the quarterback, not with Kyle Pitts. I think Kyle Pitts has a very high ceiling. Could be, a great tight end in the league for, damn near a decade if he gets it all together with a good quarterback. And then Drake London showed a lot of great flashes last year. So I do think they have some strong weapons on that side of the ball. And they were one of the most active teams in free agency. I mean, they
Yeah,
brought in
a lot of
a ton
guys.
of guys on the defensive side
Yeah.
of the ball, and like guys, like Eddie Goldman from the Bears. They brought in Calais Campbell, Bud Dupree. They brought in some like pretty recognizable names on the defensive side of the ball, some good veterans.
Eddie Goldman.
So yeah, I know that was the first one I said. Yeah, shouts out. So yeah, I mean, I get the slight little bit of hype, but I mean, that under wins at decent juice at 8.5. I would probably take that to the bank all day. They're plus 200 to win the division. I wouldn't touch that with a 10-foot pole.
Nope, I seem to have similar thoughts to you. Honestly, my favorite signing of theirs is Jesse Bates the third. I think he's one of the best safeties in the league, and he got paid and deservedly so. I also like that they brought back their right tackle, Caleb McGarry. He's a guy that I was kind of hoping would fall to the Bears somehow. But we got Darnell right, so we got that. It makes me crack up about the Eddie Goldman thing. But no, I think that Drake London and Bijan Robinson can be a nice weapon duo for whoever plays quarterback for them in the coming years. I think the hype on them is just a little premature. I don't think they have their quarterback figured out. And just in the NFL, if you don't have a quarterback, you don't have much. And I would, I, if I had to bet one win total over under in this division, I think it'd be the under on the Falcons. I think that's what I mean.
Yeah, no, you couldn't have said it better myself. The whole idea of zero faith in Desmond Ritter and quarterback being the most important position in all of sports, there's really no argument in my opinion. Um, and they don't have it. Desmond Ritter's not the guy, and I don't think they're gonna be able to win a lot of games with that. And when we wrapped it all up, I was gonna say that'd probably be my one future bet in this division that I like a lot is the under Atlanta 8.5 wins.
I like that we're on the same page with that. Now with your Bijan Robinson bet, that's probably not a bet I'd place personally, but I not only does he seem like the real deal in terms of the talent, but this is a team that wants to run the football,
Well,
and
that's what I'm saying.
and having the young quarterbacks, or unproven quarterbacks with Heineke and Ritter to have the check down with Bijan and him being such a great ball catcher as well. I could absolutely see him being offensive rookie of the year. I'm probably not betting it, but
yeah,
he's going to get touches.
Yeah, it's not very long odds at only plus 300, but exactly right. With the quarterback situation, they're going to be feeding him the ball constantly, and they had a decent running game last year, so I would imagine that continues with a what you would think would be an even better back in the
absolutely. I mean, Algier was a nice back last year, but he was like a mid or late round pick. Bijan Robinson was literally a top 10 pick at running back.
Got Cordell Patterson down there. Crazy. Shouts out Chicago Bears, baby. Ryan Pace, Chicago.
That's a team. That's a team. I think if they had just a little something more at quarterback, I would buy the hype. But those two guys do nothing for me. Absolutely nothing.
I concur, my man. All right, last team in this division, New Orleans Saints. They're the favorite. It's interesting. Their over under is 9.5, but it's plus 115.
Okay.
And that's pretty much exactly where it opened at. It hasn't really moved at all. But with Atlanta's being 8.5 minus 140, it's almost like coin flip about who's going to win the division according to where the money's gone. But the Saints are only plus 120. They had Dennis Allen down there ever since Sean Payton left. Seems like he's a pretty good defensive coach, knows what he's doing on that side of the ball. They have a good defense. They'll continue to have a solid defense. Derek Carr got brought in. I guess that's the biggest transaction other than, re-signing Michael Thomas. They must still have some faith in him. The receiving core is decent. They got Chris Olave. If Michael Thomas comes back to be anything like he was in his prime, he's a freak. And they signed Jarvis Landry. So their receiving core is solid. They obviously have Alvin Kamara. I'm not sure if Alvin Kamara has to deal with any suspension issues. I know he's had some off-the-field drama. I'm not sure where that stands with everything. But they spent a decent amount of their draft capital on the defensive line. They drafted that Brian Brees kid out of Clemson, and they drafted your boy Isaiah
Yeah,
Foskey out of
Notre Dame
Michigan.
all-time sacks leader.
Yeah, so they didn't uh, they lost a lot of guys in free agency and didn't they kind of seemed to replace them through the draft. They kind of built it back that way, and it seems like they're relying on a team that was pretty solid with a horrible quarterback situation ever since Drew Brees has departed, to just hoping that decent team looks a hell of a lot better with a somewhat reputable quarterback in Derek Carr. Um, I'm just not sure what he has in him. I guess if you made me pick someone, I probably would ride with the favorite. I'd probably take the Saints plus 120 if I had to do it. But I don't feel great about it.
No, I think value-wise, I think the Panthers are the best value potentially. Just being honest, as much as I want them to suck for Bears draft pick purposes, but no, you summed up my thoughts entirely. They lost some pieces in the front seven, but then they added a couple new pieces through free agency and a couple more through the draft. So we'll see how that shakes up their defense, which was solid last year and has been solid for a few years. Other than Derek Carr, which is the obvious addition to the offense, the one I like a lot is actually the tight end that came from Vegas as well, Foster Moreau. He was the backup in Vegas. Might have got quite a bit of playing time because of Waller's injury or whatever it was last year. But he's a guy who finally got paid as well, and I think that's a nice addition for
Probably
that
good
team.
rapport with Carr.
Yeah, nice, a little bit of comfort knowing that there's a guy that he has some familiarity with as he tries to establish some rapport with Thomas and the gang down there. I don't know. I think that if you made me put a bet on this division on who wins, I think I'm doing Carolina, but I also recognize that part of the reason is the value is different. Um, Saints on the 9.5 wins, I'm probably betting the under on that. Um, I don't have much more than that. I'm betting overs on the Bucks Panthers and probably the unders on the Falcons Saints. Um, with my favorite bet of the division being the under on the Falcons, probably.
Yeah, I was gonna say I probably won't be playing anything as far
Yeah.
as any sort of futures go in this particular division. Um, I love the under on the Bucks wins, honestly, but
Yep.
the value isn't there for me. It's too juiced that way that I wouldn't waste it. I wouldn't do anything with that. If I had to do one, I would be with you. I think my favorite play would be the under on 8.5 Atlanta wins. You'd be catching some decent juice on it. And then just one more thing about this division I want to throw out real quick. I mean, I know DeMar Hamlin has probably already won comeback player of the year, but if he doesn't get it, I could see a sneaky comeback player of the year play in Michael Thomas.
Okay.
I don't know what odds on something like that are. Um, I tried to look him up earlier, and I don't know if I just was looking in the wrong spot or what, but I wouldn't be surprised if he came back. I mean, Devontae Adams put up almost identical numbers in Vegas with Carr to what he put up with Rodgers in Green Bay. I don't know if a lot of people know that, but his yards, his catches, his touchdowns, everything was like damn near the same.
Right.
And Devontae Adams is a freak, but I think that also speaks to the fact that Derek Carr is not a horrible quarterback.
No, Carr's solid.
And if Michael Thomas, I agree Chris Olave might be the guy now, but if Michael Thomas comes back and is anything like he was, I mean, look out, because he was an absolute stud before those injuries started to riddle him.
Yeah, I mean that's a valid point. This offense actually might be decent. Yeah, I mean, like I said, if I have one bet in the division, it's the Falcons under. And the one thing I'll be praying on is the Panthers aren't as good as both you and I think they're going to be. But
Yeah. Hopefully
we shall
Panthers
see.
are losing a lot of games, man. A lot of games.
That's right. But it feels good to be talking football again. That's our NFC South talk. We'll be back shortly with some AFC roundtable talk. Thanks for tuning into the Fade podcast. If you enjoy yourself, like and subscribe. Big Jack, any last words?
Nah, crappy division, baby.
Crappy division.
Bears.